Greater Phoenix. We can tell our story differently. A new perspective. A different look. Greater Phoenix A to Z.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when this finds you. Welcome to the Greater Phoenix A to Z podcast. We have a special episode for you today with a little different format than you might be used to. The Greater Phoenix Economic Council offers various benefits to its investors and ambassadors, and we are thrilled to share a recording from a recent arts and culture panel. This panel was organized in conjunction with the launch of a captivating GPEC art exhibit, where these ambassadors were invited to learn about the influence of arts and culture on the growth of our region. Arts and culture have always been linked with the world's leading economies, captivating the hearts of both locals and visitors alike. They provide entertainment while also fostering creative means to share cultures and celebrate diversity. What's more, they make a direct and tangible contribution to the market. The panel was hosted by Stefanie Carson, the GPEC art director. Joining her were an esteemed group of panelists who play a pivotal role in the art scene right here in Greater Phoenix. Now, let's dive right into it as our panelists introduce themselves and shed light on their unique involvement in the vibrant arts community here in Greater Phoenix.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Jami Kozemczak. I am the Executive Director for Ballet Arizona. I see a few familiar faces here, so I feel a little less intimidated by seeing your smiles. Thank you. I've been with the organization for 9 years. Almost the entirety of my career has been in arts nonprofit management from the administrative side. So as I sit alongside a lot of these talented artists, I am not an artist. I am a lover of arts in all different mediums. So thank you for having me. I look forward to a conversation.
Thank you. Edna?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Edna Dapo. I'm the department head of Phoenix Center for the Arts. I've been there 16 plus years, and Phoenix Center for the Arts has been around 40 plus years. It seems like a best kept secret in town, doesn't it? Kind of speaks about our advertising, unfortunately. So in these 16 years, I've actually taught 6,500 students, and some of my students should be in the audience. I'll probably mingle with them later. I know they have work in the shows. So I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'll talk more about Phoenix Center for the Arts in a few minutes.
Thanks for coming today. My name is Christopher Roche. I'm an exhibiting artist, have some work in this show, and I'm an educator in Mesa Public Schools. I've been teaching for 25 years, 21 years in Mesa, and the last 7 years teaching elementary art, which is 4th through 6th graders.
Hello. Also happy to see all of you here. Patrick McWhortor, CEO of Arizona Citizens for the Arts. I've been in this role for just over a year, but art and culture have been a part of my life, my entire life. I've been in Arizona for more than 40 years, and I've been an advocate in the community for all kinds of issues. And there's nothing more exciting than to get to talk every day of the year to any audience that will hear me about the incredible arts and culture community we have in Arizona and how we can do even more.
Wonderful. Thank you. So jumping right into our panel, Edna, let's start with you. So the Phoenix Center for the Arts vision is to be the premier provider of arts and culture experience that improve, stimulate, and unite the communities you serve. What are some examples of how you've seen that play out during your time there?
So like I said, I've been there for a long time, and I've seen many directors. We're on our 5th director, and I have high hopes for our new director, Sandra Bissett. So the Phoenix Center for the Arts does many things, a variety of programs and initiatives. Firstly, we do art education, which is what I'm most passionate about. I lead the Department of Painting and Drawing, and we have many different departments in ceramics, photography, piano, through dance, but also traditional mediums of hand building and wheel throwing ceramics through darkroom and photography and so on. But apparently the most popular class in COVID, when we were all online on Zoom, was beginning ukulele. So you can see the variety. There really is a beautiful mix of different artists and teachers who are there and bringing a community together. So first, like I said, art education. And another thing that we do really well there is keeping the class affordable and inclusive to all ages, all skills or levels. Very proud of that. A second thing we do is we provide festivals and different events. One of the main festivals is a Phoenix Art Festival, which happens first week in December. Many vendors, arts and crafts people, including students, exhibit their work, sell their work. So that's a fun event, free event. They also have Mayor Art Awards, very interesting event that is to build scholarships for underserved students. We have senior discounts for students, including veterans program, and also for low-income students. Other things we do is exhibitions and performances. And performances are year-round. You can see on the website what they are. And exhibitions, we have hired a new curator, Tisha Harrison, who has exhibited already a couple of juried group shows, and there are possibility for solo shows. So keep that in mind, those of you who are artists. And also we do some outreach initiatives, such as a while ago we had, I still think we do have an art mobile, which is in partnership with Cox. And this art mobile goes to community building events and gives art workshops, like ceramics workshop that I think Anne, one of our instructors, did in a school and so on. So we have outreach, we have events, we have festivals. Again, art education being the most important one.
Wonderful. That's amazing. I didn't know that it had all of those things to offer. Jami, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing performing artists and theater organizations in our region today?
Some of the biggest challenges that we face now are really coming out of COVID. Audiences have not yet returned to what we consider pre-pandemic levels. And so similarly, arts each have their unique sets of challenges, no matter what medium or what discipline or what type of organization you are. An art museum is different from a ballet company or a symphony. For us, we have a company of dancers that we have to take care of, nurture, and put forward for the community. And it's very expensive. And we need to make sure that they are, as artists, provided a living wage, that they can actually survive and live and work in the community in which we ask them to perform. And so that is, the financial piece is always the biggest challenge for us in terms of an arts organization, making sure that we're maintaining our relevancy for the community, but also the financial stability that is necessary in order to grow. As our Phoenix market and community is growing, we want to be part of that growth as well.
Patrick, I'll kick it over to you. What are some of the biggest ways in which you've seen that Greater Phoenix and its leadership is supporting working artists? And what can artists do to help city ambassadors tell our story?
Well, let me first talk a little bit about our organization. Arizona Citizens for the Arts is the statewide grassroots entity that advocates for arts and culture and its contribution to the creative economy in Arizona. So we have been around for 40 years, about the same as the Phoenix Center for the Arts. And we always advocate for public investment in the arts. We're most known for our work in getting state dollars into the Arizona Commission on the Arts, which is a critical core funding program for arts and culture organizations across the state. We also work on other kinds of community support for artists, for arts programming like the festivals, and for arts organizations across the state. Well, what we really find is that having the arts community tell their own story is the most powerful, tool for selling what arts and culture is in Arizona. And when community leaders, business leaders, public policy makers are not connected, they don't necessarily understand what's going on. I just give you one example. We were successful last week in the state budget in securing a $5 million appropriation for the Arizona Commission on the Arts.
That's amazing.
Thank you. It's the second year in a row, and that is the most the state has ever put into the State Arts Commission. So we've done that now 2 years in a row. So during that time of trying to convince legislators they needed to do this again, one legislator happened to be at a fundraising event for the Phoenix Conservatory of Music. He knew somebody, connected to the organization. He didn't really know anything about the organization. He was learning about it for the first time, and it was in his district. And we saw him after the event, and he said, "This is truly amazing. The impact this has on kids and helping them develop and growing their confidence." And it's not that everybody in that program, that is an amazing program, if you don't know about the Phoenix Conservatory of Music, it becomes a musician or an artist necessarily, but what they learn there helps them no matter what they do in their life. And he said, how can we do more of this? And so at the end of the day, what we try to do is engage artists and arts leaders in getting involved directly in the advocacy to tell their story to the people in the community that can make the most difference in their work.
Chris, over to you. So, as a teacher who's worked in early education for a while now, what do you think are the biggest benefits to investing in the arts within the K through 12 system?
I think one of the biggest things is just exposing the kids to the arts from a young age, because there's many of them that would not have access to it other than in the school. Mesa Public Schools has done a pretty good job at that, and they're trying to push it and make it even more. So, some of the kids, when they line up to come in your class, it's like they're excited to come into the art room. They want to they're eager to get in there and work. So when they come in, I think sometimes today, they have so much testing and things going on in the regular classroom today, that to get into the art room and use the other side of their brain and be creative and experiment and do things that they haven't had a chance to do before is really exciting. And to get them exposed to the arts at that young age is, I think, crucial. Sometimes, for example, I'll have a student who maybe they struggle in the classroom and a lot of the academic subjects, and art might be that one thing where that they can really grab onto, and they see that all of a sudden they're flourishing. I teach basically 4th through 6th graders, and a lot of times some of the kids, even from some of the self-contained classes, they'll mainstream them, and they'll always put them in the special classes first, and art is one of those. And so I'll get some kids that come in, and I had one particular student this year, and he came in, and boy, he just sat down and he was focused like a laser, and it was pretty clear right away what we were doing, that he was very artistic, and he had this facility and he was really into it. And then so it was that one outlet for him where he can really be successful. And you just never know. But exposing the kids to the arts at that young age, because they don't all have access to it other than in the schools.
Yeah, it's so important for them to be able to get involved that way. Back to Patrick, in what ways can the arts be used as a tool for social and political change within a region?
So recently, by the way, we are a 501c3 organization as well, so we have to apply for grants and those kinds of things for funding. And recently I had to write a grant proposal to a foundation that was very committed to social justice. And they asked me to say, what would funding for an arts organization do for social justice? This isn't the typical grant application I'm normally writing, so let me do a little bit of research. And it didn't take me long. Turns out I could have exceeded the word limit several times over. If you think about any social movement, any sort of effort in the community at change, you will almost always find the arts in some way involved or connected, or even literally a part of the way they tell the story. And I think the reason for that is that arts reflects both who we are and who we want to be. Art create a way for looking at the world in different ways, connecting to the people of all types and from places that you've never heard of before, but the arts can expose you to that. And so any movement for social change, for political change, starts with people understanding and learning. And arts are a very powerful way of doing that. And so really, if you find throughout history, arts have been both very active or at least just a part of. As I was doing my research, although this wasn't in the research that I did for this grant proposal, I was thinking about it. And I thought of John Lennon's song, Imagine. And what a powerful anthem that is for people who are just trying to imagine a different world. And that's just one example of how the arts end up being infused in social movements.
Jami, coming back over to you, in what ways can performing arts organizations, communities, and corporate companies work together to bolster the local theater groups? And do you have any examples of creative ways that performing groups could be incorporated into company events?
Yes, I think that there is an unlimited opportunity before us. There is strength in partnership. There's strength in partnership among different arts organizations that can collaborate together. We have a wonderful collaboration with our friends at the Symphony, Right now, Ballet Arizona is collaborating with Desert Botanical Garden doing an outdoor performance. It's happening now. I hope we see you there. But also with the business community, there's one example that I can point to from some of our board members. This is bringing together their group of women leaders from Snell and Wilmer and their group of Elevating Women event from Northern Trust. They came to our Ballet Arizona facility and home to host an event in which it was just a networking opportunity celebrating and elevating women in leadership. And they got to experience a performance and tour the facility. And it was a great way to introduce new audiences to an art form, 90% of which, when they raised their hand, had never been to Ballet Arizona before. And so there's opportunities for organizations to do things aside from just sponsorship. Of course, I'll raise my hand and say, I'm the first to accept a sponsorship gift from any corporate entity. Thank you very much. But there are other ways that you can get involved. When you look at philanthropic giving across the sector, arts and culture are the last. They're the first to go in any time of economic volatility, and they're the last to recover. And, pre-COVID, I would dare say arts and culture were barely eking over where we were pre-Great Recession levels. And then boom, COVID comes in and resets that all over again for us. I'm actually going to call someone out here on this question. Adam Goodman, who his wife Stefanie was on our board, they did something very creative. They held their company business picnic, their annual picnic that celebrated their employee appreciation event at our Ballet Arizona studios. And so it was a unique and creative way for them to bring their employees. So it was mutually beneficial. And so when I talk about strength and partnership, it's how can we help you achieve your goals, but then also how can you help us achieve our mission? And that's broadening awareness, greater audience development initiatives, volunteerism. We have a lot of corporate volunteer opportunities, board service, placing organizations on boards to teach them about leadership, but also giving back to the community from which they get to reap the benefits of in their corporate entities.
Yeah, thank you. And if you guys have never been to the ballet in the Desert Botanical Gardens, it is such a beautiful, unique experience. So highly recommend going.
Magic.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's magical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Edna, coming back over to you. So, I know that you've traveled extensively and you've had an opportunity to be involved in art in a lot of different parts of the world. How do you think access to art affects the cultural identity of a region? And what can be done to make sure that everyone has access to the art? I know you kind of already touched on it, but maybe you could expound on that a little more.
Right. Just last year, I was in UK and I was in London visiting all the museums. And what really struck me is that every museum you walk into was free. So we are kind of far away from that, but it just seems such art access is affordable. It's free to everybody, and it's they have transportation as well that some of our communities may not be able to get to those to have the art access that way. So art access significantly influences the cultural identity by allowing diverse voices to be expressed and represented. It creates a sense of unity, creates a sense of dialogue. And some of the ways that we can figure out how to create that art access would be a variety of programming, such as art events. Like I said, some free art events do happen, but also inclusive art education and equitable distribution of funding. So we need definitely more funding, but also it needs to be equitable. It needs to be kind of dispersed throughout, I think, the whole system.
Over to Chris. As an educator, I know you're originally from California, but you've been here in Arizona for a while. And Arizona is very much known as this melting pot. We have so many cultures that come here from around the world. How important is it for artists to understand the cultural context of the region in which they work?
I think it could be really important, but in a sense, artists are just mirrors, right? We're just reflecting our communities, the people we know, and everything. So I think ultimately an artist's work is going to be tied in with the culture of the area where they're working. The main thing I would say is whatever it is, as far as being an artist, you have to do what you're passionate about. And that's going to come through. And ultimately, it's going to reflect the culture of the community in different ways. But I would say stick with what you are absolutely passionate about, because then that's what's going to come through in the work. And that's what people are going to respond to. And it's always going to be reflective of your your surroundings and the people around you and the culture there.
So I have some general questions now that I'll throw out, and anybody who wants to jump in and answer, feel free to. What impact do you see the emergence of AI generated art having on artists and creators? And how do you see the field adapting in the coming years? And how can it maybe be used as a tool to make us artists better as opposed to being scared of the progress?
This happened in real time as AI was hitting the news, is that San Francisco Ballet, which is the oldest and probably the second largest ballet company in the country, they were just completely under fire and skewered for creating their marketing artwork using AI. And it was a huge issue as an artistic institution that has to support and nurture its artists and make sure that they can have the resources available to continue to live their art. Here, this institution implemented an AI tool to produce its art. And so it made national news, actually. And I thought, okay, well, I won't be doing that anymore. So that was just one thing that hit our desk immediately, learning about this new thing that we have to pay attention to. So that's that was unique.
I don't know how it's going to impact it. It's new and it seems kind of crazy. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, but I don't think it's going to be able to replace the relationship between the artist and their audience and their clients, so to speak, and developing the artists who develop those relationships with their, different client base and viewers in person and interacting like that. I don't think it'll be able to replace that. So that's my hope.
I would agree.
I believe the effect is dual. So on one side, AI is going to create possibilities that have never been possible before. Like, I've seen botanical and architecture together, and they just plug in Gaudi, who is my favorite architect, and you get these amazing architectural things. But then AI is not really an AI what we thought from decades ago. I think it's a generator. So it's basically stealing images and stealing other artists' information and just putting it all together into meshing it together. So there's questions about ownership. There's legal considerations, ethical considerations that we have to take as issues. And mainly as a disgruntled artist myself, I'm concerned about the threat on the integrity of our work, the traditional skills that we have been honing for decades. And so I actually asked AI or generator, what does it think about it? And it's all for it. It keeps talking about democratization of art, which I think is problematic because I don't believe that somebody who doesn't have any skill and somebody who has skill should be on the same level. If artists go through decades of work, of search, of education, then they should be somewhat rewarded for that. And then in the end, what makes us human, right? To me, it's creativity itself. So if we take that away from humans, what are we?
I don't know why I'd want to follow that, but I will just say that I think we're all in the moment, right? Trying to figure out what all this AI really means. And I haven't been too busy trying to get $5 million for the arts to think about it because it seems like in the last 3 months it's become the thing. But one thing does occur to me, and I've talked to a couple of business people about this who are talking about how they're using it, and it sounds like it can have some utility. So I don't think we can't be afraid of it. It's here. We've got to figure out how to use it, but we also have to figure out how to manage it. So the ownership and legal issues, things we're talking about, really important. But right now, at least where it is right now, the material that AI is using was done by humans. So I sat at lunch with a nonprofit executive not long ago when we were talking about it. She had somehow already signed up for ChatGPT, but she hadn't used it. And I had made the comment that, what if it wrote a press release for your organization? So she literally pulled her phone out. She said, write a press release for my organization. And we watched as it wrote the press release. And I was going to be curious about her reaction. How good was it? And she's like, it's pretty good. A couple factual errors. It said insert quote of the executive director here. So she just had to do that. But everything that it was pulling from, she had written somewhere. It got it off the internet, right? It found sources and put it together. So when it comes to art, it's still humans that are originating the true authentic art. Now, maybe over time that becomes more of a concern as AI starts using AI generated content. It's kind of like a photocopy that as it gets further and further from the original, it gets fuzzy and it's not like the original, that kind of thing. So I think we have time, I guess, to grapple with that, but not fear too much where we are right now, because the art still has to come from the soul of a human.
I have to confess, I did ask Chat AI what questions I should ask this panel. I didn't think they were very good. So the bad ones are from Chat. The good ones I came up with.
I was wondering that.
Yeah. All right. This is a question I want to throw to you guys, because I'm definitely interested in this answer, and I'm sure all the artists out here are as well. How do you balance making personal work and making work that can resonate with a wider audience? I know I just started listening to a book. I believe it's called Artist of One, but it's really about creating art just for yourself. And I know as an artist, it's really hard when you get good at something to not want to monetize it. How do you manage that? How do you keep doing what drives you?
Well, it's funny. I mean, my work is my personal work. There isn't a separate, work that I do just for myself. This is it. So whatever I exhibit or display, that's what I'm making. And that's what I'm making regardless, monetizing or not. If it sells or it doesn't matter. I'm making it anyway. Mm-hmm. And there's no hidden stuff in my studio that's, just my own personal stuff. What I exhibit and what I hang, that is my personal stuff. And that's me. And that's what I do. And that's who I am.
Wonderful.
I think it's important that we, as artists, are authentic to ourselves so that you don't compromise your own self when you're creating, but at the same time, you want to have a commercial success, right? I mean, you can't live off of exposure that doesn't pay for your mortgage and rent. So in those terms, there's got to be a balance between these two. And one way artists can approach that is just with social media. It seems to be one of the easy ways today. You post something and then you wait for comments and feedback. Then you post something else, wait for comments and feedback. And then you can compare which of those series or works has received better things. But mainly above all, I would suggest experimentation. And then that experimentation is going to lead through different series, different concepts that some of them are going to appeal to both yourself and the audience.
Well, I can't really speak specifically as an artist, though I do have a background in theater and doing art myself too, and music. But the way we confront this question basically in the advocacy arena is, so we're always making the case for an artist. It's the intrinsic value. I mean, you just said you will do this whether there's a commercial outcome or not, because the art needs to come out, right? Yeah. And so therefore it has intrinsic value to you. And so the artists in our community who they're advocating for don't understand why we have to come up with all of these arguments for why the art is important. That isn't just, it's art. Why don't you understand that, right? And yet it's a way to build a connection to the arts in general. So as an example, you gave some of the figures earlier about the economic impact on the art. So we spent a lot of our time talking about how Arizona as a place where people want to live, work, and play wouldn't be that at all if we didn't have arts and culture. And by the way, the land, which is so much a part of our story and attraction, our climate and our land, has an incredible connection to the arts and culture of Arizona. As you go to this exhibit, you're going to see the Arizona land and climate throughout in all kinds of ways, right? That's a part of tourism. That's a part of business development. And again, so it's why people live, work, and play here. So that's one angle, but there's others. I actually gave a speech yesterday to Kiwanis Club in Glendale. And I was talking about this very idea about how there are different things that arts do, the education thing, like we talked about earlier. I also talked about the healing nature of arts, and boy, how important that is today. And I think I might have given one example. And I don't know if you've done Kiwanis Club before, but they do their happy bucks. You put $1 in and say what you're happy for. It's one of their fundraising things. Put $1 in a bucket. One of the members, after my speech, said, I'm doing a happy buck for Patrick reminding me about how my mother, who is suffering with Alzheimer's, once a week or twice a month or whatever it is, they come in and they play piano. And he said, I can tell when they've been there because she is more calm. It soothes her. It has this impact on her. And so what I try to tell artists is there are many pathways to making the connections to why art is so valuable in all of our lives. And everybody has their own pathway to get there. But once they get there, they're going to find the art they had no idea that was there, that the artist created for its intrinsic value. And they get inspired by that as well.
Phoenix is still a relatively young region. How do you think we can ensure that as the arts and culture scene here continues to build, that it's one that authentically reflects the people who lived here and live here now? Do any of you have experience or thoughts that you could speak to there?
I can point to something that Ballet Arizona just did last year for the first time. Well, not for the first time, but something on a grand scale. We produced a new full-length ballet called Juan Gabriel, and it was inspired. This artist was just in the Latino community, the most revered and celebrated artist ever, higher than the Beatles and Elvis and all of these individuals combined. And so when this individual passed away, our artistic director became so inspired by his artistry, and also because of the community within which we reside, said, I'm going to do a ballet around Juan Gabriel. And what we found after this premiered is that the audiences came out in droves and just responded with so much enthusiasm, because they said, you're doing something that resonates with me, and you're honoring our legendary figure, and you're giving them so much respect and credence that they just came out in droves and were so happy that we did something that was meaningful and relevant to them. And so that's now an initiative that Ballet Arizona is doing. We're doing it again next year or this year in October, but also a commitment to a Latino arts initiative that we continue. We don't just want to drop in and then drop out. We had a great success. Luckily, we actually want to commit ourselves to continuing to reach audiences that with relevant art and content.
Any kind of final parting thoughts from each of you?
We are talking about longer-term initiatives for much more significant private and public investment in arts and culture in Arizona. And so that op-ed that you referred to earlier was just the starting point. And so I thank Chris Camacho and the team here for being partners with us. I believe there's artists in all of us. I think we all know how important it is. Sort of like imagine a day without the arts here, and it would just be a very sad day. I think everybody would agree with that. But in order to have that, it takes investment, it takes resources. And if we have you involved in helping us convince our community leaders that we can do that, I think we will make Arizona a richer place as a result. We really look forward to working with GPEC on that in the future.
I'd just like to say thank you to you, Stefanie, and to GPEC for putting on this show and getting this wide range of diverse artists to show in Arizona pastimes. I think it's really cool. And it's just fun because I go through here and I don't know all the artists, but as I'll go through, I'll say, oh, I know this, I know her, I know him, because I've been in other shows with them or so on, and I've crossed paths with them, so to speak. And just thank everybody for coming, and thank you for inviting me to do this today.
What these two said. So this is a free event. So this type of stuff that needs to happen more in the art circles. More of these shows that are also free shows to enter and to come and see them. So that's all very important to artists because, like I said, adequate funding is so important to us.
Yes, and I'll say I just left a meeting. Ballet Arizona is going through a leadership transition right now, and we have a firm that flew out to start interviewing all of these stakeholders, dancers, staff members, talking about who is Ballet Arizona and what does Ballet Arizona want to be in our future. And what I said at one point is I said, this organization is just at an inflection point right now. We're poised to do something great, to put our footprint not only in our community, but on a national scale. And as I'm sitting here listening and participating in all of these conversations and witnessing the art, I actually think that's broader and more true for our community at large. This Phoenix community is a burgeoning metropolis, and it is poised to catapult into the future. And that's a testament to our community, because it's without the people in the community that have made these investments and shown the value. 10 years ago, we were, people would say, oh, it's a cultural backwater. This cowboys in the desert, there's no art there. Why would I go there? But actually, we know that not to be true. And that's a testament to the people that are willing to make the investment and the commitment to growing art in our communities.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Greater Phoenix A to Z. Arts are an often overlooked part of the Greater Phoenix economy, but have a huge impact on everyday life. They contribute to the region's economy by attracting tourists, stimulating business, and creating jobs. Cultural attractions enhance the destination appeal, fostering tourism and boosting the local economy. Arts and culture also promote community engagement, social cohesion, and inclusivity. In 2021, arts and culture contributed $11.6 billion to Arizona's economy, accounting for 2.8% of the gross domestic product, and provided employment for approximately 85,000 individuals. We hope this episode has deepened your understanding of the economic value that arts and culture bring to our region. We will be back soon with your regular hosts, continuing our journey through all things Greater Phoenix. For now, be safe and well. Cheers.